In 1643, a young samurai lost everything in a single moment of rage. His reputation, his position, almost his life. All because he couldn't control a single emotion for 3 seconds. 3 seconds that changed everything. You know what's worse? Maybe you're doing the same thing every day. Reacting before thinking, exploding before breathing. Ruining relations, opportunities, and your own peace of mind because no one ever taught you the truth about self-control. And you know what the good part is? There is a method, 3 principles that when combined create something Fatmatter neuroscientists call a lit emotional regulation, and that the samurai simply called unwavering mind. The first principle is Mushin. It means without mind or empty mind. And it's not about not thinking. It's about not letting your thoughts control you. Second is Ma, the empty space between things. The interval, the sacred pause that separates stimulus from response. The third is Wabi-Sabi, the beauty of imperfection, the radical acceptance that nothing will ever be perfect, including you. And how this acceptance sees the key to stopping exploding every time things don't go as planned. These 3 concepts aren't just beautiful philosophy. They're practical tools, mental combat techniques that have transformed impulsive young people into masters of self-control. And today, you'll see exactly how they work through the story of Henry Miller, a man who almost lost everything until he discovered this method. But before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, like this video. And in the comments, tell me when was the last time you reacted impulsively and regretted it later? And how do you deal with your impulsiveness? Let's build this community together. A community of people who fight and overcome their own mind. Now let's get to the story. Chapter 1. Henry's remaining. Henry Miller was 34 years old when his life began to fall apart. He was VP of Product at an artificial intelligence startup in San Francisco. Incredible salary, team of 47 people, industry recognition. On paper, he had made it. But inside, Henry was fighting a war no one could see. He would explode constantly. Meetings that were supposed to last 30 minutes ended in confrontations. Emails he sent at 2 a.m. full of barely disguised frustration. Arguments with his wife that started over nothing and escalated into shouting matches. His 8-year-old son, Jake, began to avoid him. "Dad's in a bad mood again," the boy said. "It's best not to talk to him right now." And the worst part, Henry knew. He saw it happening. He saw the words coming out of his mouth and thought, "Stop, you're going to regret this." But he couldn't stop. It was as if there was an automatic switch between what he felt and what he did. Zero room for choice until the day Derek, his chief engineer, resigned in front of the entire team. During a presentation to investors, "I can't work like this anymore," Derek said firmly. "Henry, you're brilliant, but it's impossible. You explode over anything. Nobody here feels safe to speak. I can't take it anymore." Total silence in the room. Henry felt something break inside him. It wasn't anger this time. It was shame, pure and devastating. He looked around. He saw fear in some eyes, relief in others, as if everyone was thinking. Finally, someone said, that night, his wife was waiting for him to talk. When he arrived home, Jake was already asleep. She had been crying. "We need to talk," she said. "I can't take it anymore, Henry. You're destroying our family. Jake is afraid of you." "I'm afraid of you. Not of what you'll do physically, but of what you'll say, of how you'll react. It's like walking on eggshells all the time." Henry sat down. He had no defense. She was right. "Either you find a way to change," she continued, "or I'll have to think about what's best for me and for Jake." That's when Henry realized it didn't have an anger problem. He had a control problem, or rather a lack of control. And if he didn't fix that, he would lose everything that mattered. Neuroscientists have discovered something fascinating about people like Henry. There is a time lag between when you receive a stimulus and when you react. Just 0.2 to 0.5 seconds. In that microscopic interval, your brain is deciding, do I let the amygdala take control or do I activate the prefrontal cortex? The amygdala is the emergency system. Fight or flight, immediate reaction without thought. The prefrontal cortex is the CEO of the brain. Analysis, planning, conscientiousness. People lacking self-control. Their amygdala hijacks the interior operation before the CEO even has a chance to speak. They don't choose to react. They simply react. And the more you react like that, the more you enforce that neural pathway until it becomes automatic, until you become Henry exploding before you even realize you're angry. But there is a way out. And samurai discovered that way out centuries ago. Chapter 2. The Meeting with Kenji. 3 days after his conversation with his wife, Henry was sitting in a cafe. He didn't know why Head had gone there. Perhaps trying to find something, anything that made sense. An older man sat at the next table, Japanese, perhaps 60 years old, with a calm presence that seemed to occupy more space than his physical body. He ordered red green tea and opened an old book with Japanese characters. Henry was fiddling with his phone, responding to work emails with growing frustration when he bumped into his coffee cup and spilled everything unfeedable. "Damn it," he exclaimed, too loud for a quiet coffee break. The older man looked at him, not with judgment, with curiosity. "Are you always running like this?" He's with a slight accent. Henry stopped. "Excuse me." Your fingers, your eyes, your breath, everything racing, as if you were trying to be in 3 places at once. Something about those words struck Henry. Yes, I think so." The man smiled. "My name is Kenji. Do you want to know why you can't stop?" Henry should have found it strange. A complete stranger offering unsolicited advice. But there was something about Kenji's calmness that made Henry want to listen. "Yes," he said. "I want to." Kenji closed the book. "Your mind is too full. Like an overflowing cup. You try to add more water and your mind spills over. You try to control it, but there's no room for control, only reaction. Okay, so how do I solve this? First, you learn Mushin, empty mind. It doesn't mean having no thoughts. It means not clinging to them, letting them pass like clouds." Henry frowned. "That sounds like a meditation. I've tried it. It doesn't work for me." Kenji laughed. "It's not meditation. It's combat practice. Samurai didn't meditate just to relax. They meditated to survive. If Azumari's mind became fixated on a thought during combat, the samurai died. Simple as that." Kenji leaned forward and said, "You're fighting a war every day against your emotions, against situations, against people, and you're relishing because you're fighting the wrong way. You fight trying to control everything. But control doesn't come from strength. It comes from emptiness." "Empty," Henry repeated. "Yes, when your mind is empty, there is space. Space to choose. Space between what happens and how you respond. We call this the sacred interval. It is in this space that true self-control resides." Henry felt something stir inside him, a kind of recognition, as if part of him knew this was true. "And how do I learn that?" he asked. Kenji wrote something on a napkin and handed it to Henry. "An address. Meet me tomorrow at 6 a.m. I'll show you." Chapter 3. The 3 Principles. 6:03 m. Henry arrived late. Thedrus was a small hidden dojo. When he entered, Kenji was seated in Caesar, the formal Japanese posture in front of Asmal altar with a lit candle. "Sit down," Kenji said without looking back. Henry sat down awkwardly, his legs immediately protested. "Close your eyes, breathe." Henry obeyed immediately. His mind raced. "I should be answering those emails. The meeting with the investors is tomorrow. Is my wife still angry? Jake needs to go to the dentist this week. I forgot to. Is your mind screaming right now?" Kenji asked. Yes, Henry admitted. Good. Now observe the thoughts. Don't fight them. Don't try to stop them. Just watch them come and go like cars passing on a street. You don't need to get into every car. Henry tried. It was harder than anything he had ever done. Every thought pulled at his attention, but he continued observing, letting it pass. 5 minutes, 10, 15, and then for just a few seconds, the mental wah stopped. There were no thoughts, only silence, only awareness. Henry opened his eyes, startled. Did you feel it? Kenji asked. I felt it. What is that? Mushin, empty mind. In that space, there is no fear, no anger, no impulse. There is only clarity. The samurai trained this daily because they knew in combat an extra thought kills you. In life, an extra thought makes you explode. Kenji stood up. Now comes the practical part. Kenji led Henry to the center of the dojo. He handed him ashini, a bamboo sword used in training. I'm going to attack you slowly at first. Your job isn't to block. It's to sense its space between my movement and your response. That space is ma. I don't know how to use a sword, Henry protested. It doesn't matter. It's not about this word. Kenji assumed a stance. He moved slowly. A strike coming from above. Henry instinctively raised his shiny Ido block. No. Kenji stopped. You reacted. I don't want a reaction. I want a conscious response. Feel the movement. See it coming. And in the space before you move, choose. They tried again. This time, Henry forced himself to wait, to see Kenji's movement, to feel theming, and then at the last possible moment to move. Better, Kenji said. Did you feel the difference? Henry nodded. There was a different quality to Thescan movement. It wasn't automatic. It was chosen. In life you don't have Mark explained. Someone criticizes you, you explode. The situation doesn't go as expected, you react. No space, nakois. But ma isn't something you have. It's something you create as breathing. When something provokes you before responding. Breathe once deeply. This breath becomes ma. In it, you fin choice. Henry thought about direct witting, about his wife saying shekel didn't take it anymore, about Jake avoiding him. How many times had he exploded without that space, without that choice? Every time he said aloud. Kenji nodded. Yes, and now you'll start training differently. An hour later, sweaty and mentally exhausted. Henry sat down again. There's a third principle. Kenji said, perhaps the most important one. Wabi-Sabi, abi. He pointed to a cracked vase on a shelf. See that vase? It's broken, but we're paired it with gold. The name of this technique is kinsakuroi, also called kinsa. Now the crack is the most beautiful part. I don't understand how this relates to self-control, Henry said. You explode because you have an idea of how things should be, perfect, controlled, on time. But nothing is ever like that. And every time reality doesn't fit your expectations, you go tore. You get angry not at things as they are, but at things as you think they should be. Henry felt the words sink deep inside. Wabi-Sabi is accepting Jim 50, Kenji continued. Not with resignation, with appreciation. People will disappoint you. Projects will be delayed. You will fail. That's not the problem. The problem is fighting against it, instead of accepting and adapting. So, I just accept everything. I don't change anything. No. You change what you can change, but you accept what you can't. And wisdom lies in knowing the difference. When you accept imperfection, you stop exploiting best things aren't perfect. You save your energy for what really matters. Henry thought about his team. How many times had he exploded because someone made a mistake? A normal human error. He was at war with the reality that people are imperfect, and he was losing that war. How do I practice this? He asked. Whenever you notice anger rising, ask yourself, Am I angry at the situation or at my expectation of how the situation should be? It's usually the second option. And that expectation, you can let it go. Chapter 4. The 30-Day Transformation. Henry's first week was brutal. Kenji instructed Henry to practice 3 things every day. 15 minutes of Mushin in the morning. Just sitting and observing thoughts. Create ma in every interaction. Take a breath before responding. Always identify an unrealistic expectation and consciously let go of it. Wabi-Sabi in action. On 3rd day, Henry almost gave up. During a meeting, a designer presented a cup that was completely outside the brief. Henry felt his anger rising like a lava. His body was already preparing to explode. And then he remembered, Ma, he breathed once deeply. In that span of 2 seconds, something changed. He looked more closely at the designer. He saw a 25-year-old who probably hadn't slept ring to get it right. He saw a human error, not a personal attack. Thank you for presenting, Henry said calmly. I see where you were going with this, but we need to realign with debriefing. Could you review it and bring it back tomorrow? The designer blinked, clearly expecting an explosion. Oh, of course, sorry, no problem, Henry said that it happens. The week 2 brought the first real test. Henry and his wife were arguing about vacation. She wanted to visit her parents. Henry had planned a trip to Hawaii. They were going back and forth, voices rising. You never consider what I want, his wife said. Old Henry would have exploded. Never consider it. I do everything for this family. But then Henry breathed, Ma. And then he applied, Wabi-Sabi. He had an expectation that he and his wife would easily agree. But why would they? They are 2 different people with different needs. Imperfection is not a problem. It's reality. You're right. Hesed, I had already decided on Hawaii without really asking what you wanted. I'm sorry. Let's start over. What's important to you on this vacation? His wife stopped. Yohut? I want to know what matters to you. I was so focused on my plan that I didn't even ask. His wife replied, Were you and what have you done with my husband? They both laughed and then they had the best conversation they'd had in months. They decided 1 week with her parents, 1 week in Hawaii. A compromise, imperfect, but real. That night, Jake entered Henry's room while he was reading Dad. The boy said, Hi, champion. You're less angry now. Henry felt a tightening in his chest. I'm trying, Jake. I'm sorry for scaring you earlier. Jake jumped onto the bed and hugged his father. I like this you. Henry held his son, his eyes moist. Me, 2. Chapter 5. The final test point 3 weeks after his first meeting with Kenji, Henry received an unexpected ale. Ira did Derek. Henry, I've heard you've been acting differently. Several people have noticed. I'd like to talk. Are you willing to? They arranged to meet for coffee, coincidentally, at the same place where Henry had met Kenji. Derek arrived cautiously, defensively. Henry didn't blame him. Thank you for coming, Henry began. And then he did something had never done before. I want to apologize, not just for the day you left, but for the entire toxic environment I created. You were right. I was impossible. Derek blinked, was it? I'm working on it. I'm not saying I'm cured, but I'm different. I'm trying. They talked for an hour. Henry listened more than he spoke. He applied Matt Tovery response. He accepted criticism with defending himself. Wabi-Sabi in action. I am imperfect, and that single quote's okay. Finally, Derek said. I'm thinking of coming back, but only if you've realized changed. I can't promise perfection, Henry said. I'll make mistakes again, but I promise I'm committed to buying better. And if you come back, I want you to hold me accountable. Call me when I start to slip up. Derek extended his hand. Deal. A week later, Derek returned and not alone. Of the 12 team members who had resigned or transferred internally in the last 6 months, 8 tasked to return to Henry's team. The company CEO called Henry into his office. "What the hell did you do? In 3 weeks, you turned around the most problematic team in the company. I need you to tell me." Henry smiled. "I learned at 3 Japanese principles from a stranger in a cafe." The CEO raised an eyebrow. "Explain." And Henry explained, Mushin ma. Wabi-Sabi, empty mind, sacred space. Beauty of imperfection. When Henry finished, the CEO was silent for a moment. "Does this work for a very own or just for you?" "I think it works for anyone who is willing to practice. So I want you to teach this to all the leadership. Turn it into a workshop." And in this way, Henry managed to control his lack of self-control, and was able to help other people improve as well. Before we wrap up, let me show you what science says about this. Neuroplasticity studies at Stanford Medicine have shown that practicing awareness of the stimulus-response interval, what we're calling MAR, literally rebuilds the connections between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. You're creating a new neural pathway, one where you choose instead of just reacting. Research on psychological intent, published in the Journal of Contextual Behavioral Science, demonstrates that people who practice a radical acceptance of imperfection Wabi-Sabi report fewer episodes of dysregulated anger over 8 weeks and Mushin an empty mind. fMRI scans in meditation practitioners show a decrease of up to 40% in the activity of feedfo mode network, the brain network responsible for obsessive rumination and emotional hijacking. This isn't mysticism. It's neuroscience. fMRI discovered through trial and error what we can now measure in the laboratory. 6 months after meeting Kenji, Henry was sitting in that cafe again. Jake was with him this time, drinking hot chocolate and drawing. His wife would arrive in a few minutes so they could have lunch together. Kenji entered. He smiled when he saw Henry. "You look different," the master said. "I am different." Kenji sat down. "Tell me." Henry reflected on the past few months. The moments when anger still surfaced, but now he had space. He had choice. The delayed projects, the team mistakes, fine perfections of life that he now saw through Wabi-Sabi. Not as problems to be destroyed, but as a reality to be accepted and navigated. And feminines practicing Mushin where he found that mental silence for seconds that turned into minutes where he realized, I am not my thoughts. I am not me emotions. I am the consciousness that observes both. I figured something out. Henry said self-control isn't about being strong enough to suppress your emotions. It's about creating enough space to choose what to do with those emotions. Kenji nodded. You've learned. But remember, this is daily practice. It's not something you achieve, and that's it. It's a path you walk again every morning. I know, Henry said. And I'll walk for the rest of my life. Jake looked up at the drawing. Dad, who is this man? Henry smiled. That's Mr. Kenji. He taught me how to be a better father to you. Jake smiled and went back to drawing. Kenji stood up to leave. Before leaving, he said, Henry, their all test isn't when everything is going well. It's when life breaks you again, when you lose something important, when you fail publicly, when your family faces a crisis. That's when you find out if you've truly learned. Henry nodded. I know. And when that happens, I'll breathe. I'll create ma. I'll remember that imperfection isn't the problem. Expecting perfection is. So you're ready, Kenji said, and he left. Henry stood there watching Jake draw, waiting for his wife to arrive, savoring the present moment without needing it to be any different than it was. He wasn't at war with anything, not with the world, not with people, not even with himself. He was simply present completely, and he discovered that this simple feeling of being alive, without needing to control everything, was what he had always been searching for when He exploded. He just didn't know that the path to control involved letting go. The samurai thought for perfect self-control isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's not about controlling everything.